Welcome to the Mentors and Moguls podcast. I'm your host, Heather Stone. I bring you mentors and moguls from all around the world, different walks of life, from creatives to CEOs to business leaders to top athletes and all kinds of other people in between. If you like our episode today, all of our podcasts are available on our YouTube channel. Please go ahead and subscribe and comment. We'd love to hear your feedback.
If you've ever been overwhelmed in your life or wished you could be somewhere else, you need to take a listen to my next guest, Danny Bader. Danny sits down with me and has a candid conversation of a miraculous journey from death, yes, I said death, back to life. Danny Bader is a best-selling author and an inspirational coach whose life was transformed by a near-death experience more than 20 years ago. He started his own company in 2007 that focuses on helping others truly understand themselves by creating a powerful vision for their future. Grab your favorite cup of coffee or drink and listen to the words of wisdom from Danny Bader.
Hello, and welcome to the Mentors and Moguls podcast. I'm your host, Heather Stone, and today we have a wonderful guest here, Mr. Danny Bader. He is a best-selling author and a much sought-after speaker. He's got some phenomenal topics here today on living your life to its fullest. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you, Heather. It's great to be here. I appreciate it.
Well, you've got a few books over your shoulder, so let's kind of dive right in and talk about that. You've got a very unique story. I think it's a moving story for everyone. Back to Life, the book, which is your first one over your shoulder, I have just read, and I found it very compelling to change the way you think and change the way you live starting today. So give us a little background on your story and how it came about, please.
Thank you. Sure. And thanks for taking a look at the book. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So when I was almost 29 years of age, my friend and I were working construction, and we lowered a metal ladder into an electric line that we thought we would be clear of course. And we weren't. And about 8 to 10,000 volts of electricity came down the ladder and went into both of our bodies. And it killed me and it killed my buddy. I was dead for about 8 minutes or so. And then I came back to life. He didn't. Tragically, we lost a wonderful guy right there, husband and a father. So after 10 days in the hospital and getting out and my friend having already been buried, I went to that dark place that many of us human beings go when we're going through a struggle. And it really doesn't matter what the struggle is. I think they're all similar in a lot of ways. So the book Back to Life is really about a young man named Jake, AKA Danny, who has to kind of figure out how to get back to life, not just physically, because I came back to life physically, but I certainly wasn't engaged in life at all. I often say there's a hell of a difference between just living and being fully alive. And I was just kind of going through the motions. So that's kind of the short story of the book.
The short story. Are there any excerpts that you would like to share with us or any key points? You've got so many in the book. I won't give it all away, but how do you feel about fate, or how do you feel about divine intervention? I guess I could say that without giving things away.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good, huh? I believe in it 100%. I always believed, when I was raised in my faith with my mom and dad and 6 brothers and a sister, you're raised to believe and have faith that when your body stops, there's a part of you that continues on. I call it my soul. And now I was given the gift to know that. So that was really the difference after the accident. People would say, do you wish it didn't happen? And I say, no, but I wish my friend didn't die. The growth that came out of that for me, I see it now as a gift. I really stopped trying to figure out, Heather, why it happened. Right. I mean, I looked into more empty beer bottles trying to figure out why it happened, and I never got the answer. So, then I just trusted that it was part of my growth. And perhaps that story is the ability for me to support other people in their own growth and their own struggles.
Which you have done. You speak all over the world. How do you like speaking? And what is one of the main comments that people give back after you're done? Because your story is not textbook, right? It's very compelling.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I love speaking. Actually, today I'm off to Nashville to do a talk down there for a large group at the Gaylord Opryland, the leaders down there. Oh. So that'll be really cool. I love it. I mean, the past 2 days I've been really excited because, especially with this past 2 years of COVID, that's kind of my why, my purpose is to show up, every day, get out of bed, come back to life and support people as best I can. Not because I have all the answers. I think it's more about asking the right questions and letting them know that we're all in this together. That's certainly one of the, you asked if I had any kind of phrases out of the book or whatever. Rock bottom's a hell of a place. And I would say many of us, probably 90% of the people that I know, get to that point. And just to know that it's all going to be okay. And we can move through it, to the other side. So I think that's really, really.
Do you speak to people? I've got a few people that during COVID, their lives were turned upside down. Their income was taken away and things, relationships were dashed and things just seemed to be one after another piling on. Yeah. What would you really tell someone that is really at rock bottom saying, I can't even see it. I know I'm supposed to be happy for these things, but right now I just don't feel it. I can't see it. And maybe I don't need to move on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a great question. And each individual case is different with people. I think that the basics, when I talk a lot, I have a model called Jackrabbit of 5 principles that I feel move us through difficult times and help us create more fulfilling lives. So I would just kind of see where they are. Sometimes people need to get away and just sit in stillness a little while, because I believe that the spirit, the human spirit, when my body stopped and my soul left and I had my experience where I was joined with God, I know that it's there. And I know that that's the most vital energy we have as human beings. Your heart, your brain, and your lungs, yes, contribute to your body going, but it's that fourth energy. I call it God, I call it spirit, you may call it consciousness or whatever. I think most people believe, though, that there's something bigger than us going on. So it would just be some conversations around that. Questions are a lot of times when people can see others who have gone through the same struggle, then it helps them. So I'd say, hey, think of somebody that you admire that's been through a difficult time. Right. What would they say to you right now? The difficult thing is, you said, sometimes people can't see themselves through it. Right. And the reason I call them the principles that I talk about Jackrabbit is because the Jackrabbit has really good vision. And I think when I do this talk this week, it's called The Vital Nature of Vision. And, a lot of times people think you need vision, Heather, just when you're in that shitty place, right? Yes. And you do. And you can also have it when you're in a really good place, because when you're in that really good place, you still want to be kind of looking and saying, okay, what's coming up next? So you and I, we both share the passion of skiing. And I remember, and, you got moguls in here, so I know maybe a different term, but the moguls are the bumps, right, that you ski down the mountain. Right. And I remember I was taking a lesson in Aspen one time on Bell Mountain there. And the instructor said, Danny, you got to be in the turn that you're in. You got to have your hands out, your knees out over your skis, your hands downhill, shoulder square, right? All the basics of skiing the moguls. And you have to be looking at the next turn. So I thought that's just such a good way to describe life. We have to be in it. We have to be executing and taking action and dealing with sometimes the brutal facts of our struggle. And it's that dance between, okay, yeah, I'm in it right now, and that's where I'm going. And then next day, yeah, I'm in it right now, and here's where we're going. And I believe, too, when we do that, we get there. We get there. And we got to have a lot of cool people around to help us as well.
You do need a lot of support. I think let's go back to stillness, because I just got back from a week of my stillness. I do this once or twice a year where I love my family. I love my friends. I'm pretty social, but I went away for 5 days and there were no cell phones allowed. And it drove everyone else nuts. They didn't really need me, but they thought they needed me, right? I didn't respond.
Yes.
But I had more growth, I think, personally in that 5 days than I've had in 5 months. It was just so beneficial. How do you feel about stillness? Do you sit in stillness every day, or what's your practice?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. In the morning, first thing in the morning when I wake up, it's usually still. My wife's a nurse, so she gets up 4:30 or so, takes off to the hospital, and then I climb back in bed just for a little bit. And it's usually some stillness there. I smile. I just put a smile on my face because that kind of tricks your brain. Your brain's going, wait, what's happening? Why the hell are we smiling? It must be, it's going to be a good day. And then I do some prayer for me. And then throughout the day, at some point, I'll do a meditation or two. You have to drop into stillness. Like you, I do some retreats over the years where I'll go away for 2 or 3 days. and I'll just take my journal. Sometimes I take the Bible. Sometimes maybe I'll take another book that I'm reading, and just disconnect. I'll leave the phone or a number where, in the event there's an emergency, my wife, in the airplane mode, you just put one number that can get through.
Right.
But as I said before, the human spirit, our spirit, which is such a part of us, your spirit, I'm spirit. You just happen to be Heather Stone. I happen to be Danny Bader,
right.
In this human form. I think it's vital for people to connect like that. And anytime I coach people, the principles of Jackrabbit want us to be still. And I'm always coaching them. I'm working with a guy now, wonderful guy, Division I soccer coach in the US. And same thing, type A, driven and everything. And I get that. And let's incorporate some of this disconnect, right? So that you can get back into the type A driven, goal oriented. It's all good. You don't have to not be that way. Just let's disconnect and settle a little bit.
Right.
And he and I are having a cool conversation around aura, right? That energy or disposition of a people or a place or a thing. Mm-hmm. That's something that I'm really starting to offer to people.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a big deal. Whether you believe it or not, you are putting out, we're all energy moving, right? So you're putting out the energy, you're attracting the energy that you're putting out.
Sure.
And it's interesting when you get in a mood where I'll speak for myself, when I get in a mood where I'm upset and angry and frustrated, which doesn't happen that often, but it happens. Yeah. All of a sudden, everything kind of falls off the tracks and everybody around me seems to be in the same agitated mood.
Oh, sure.
And I realized I just turned that dial and said, that's what I'd like to receive right now. And as soon as you figure that out and turn it off, boy, life is a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reading a book right now. Let me just roll over real quick. I'm reading a book called The Energy Codes, the 7-step system to awaken your spirit. Somebody recommended it to me. Actually, our buddy Bill recommended it to me.
Oh, good.
And I've been in touch with him. It sounds like he's working on that fear movie. It's going to be wonderful. I look forward to that. And anyhow, I'm just, I think, as I said, growth is so important for us. Yes. It's the one thing that we all share, and it's our responsibility as a human to continue to grow. So I'm really starting to grow more into that energy world, which is consistent with my beliefs, because spirit is energy. Right. I just believe it's the energy of the divine. And I think so. So when you were away and being still, what was the best takeaway for you? Now I'm the host.
Right. I think one of the best takeaways was I've gotten away from doing that, and I need to incorporate that. I can't skip that. I need to incorporate that into my life and figure out how to not wait 6 months to do it. Right. And so I have a women's retreat that's happening in January, where I'm taking a bunch of women along for the ride, and we're all going to do it together and set our intentions for the new year. And a lot of good stuff's coming out of that. But that's really what I took away from it. And then so many things, when I turned off the noise, because I like to be busy, but sometimes busy for busy's sake isn't the best thing. When I turned off the noise, the clarity that I received was amazing. So I think the best thing is, when you're running around frantic or running around being type whatever you are, A plus,
AA,
you can't hear anything because you're too busy making your own clacking around. You need to stop. And when you listen, then the answers come. When you try and say, but that's the answer I want over there. I want answer B over there. That's not that's not the right answer.
Right.
So I think everything just came flooding through, and I'm like, wow, if I would have done this a while ago, I would have saved myself a lot of anguish and a lot of time. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good. So I'll look forward to checking in with you and hearing how you're making that a routine now. It's often in the absence of sound. This is, in the book I talk about, it's in the absence of sound that we hear the most. Mm-hmm. And the way those principles of Jackrabbit, you and I have talked about it, and you read the book, but they all came out of my reflection when I moved through that difficult time, and I didn't buy a hose and put it in my tailpipe. And I realized, okay, this sucks, and I can move through it. Those principles came out of my reflection to say, okay, what did I do? Mm-hmm. What principles did I practice? What principles have I seen other people with good energy and resilience and inspiration, folks? And that's where I kind of distilled them into Jackrabbit. I mean, people like me, writers, speakers, we don't invent anything. I see some of these people talk, trying to tell, and you said, what do I tell people? I tell very, very little. Just show up, ask questions. You said if somebody was really struggling, if I'm with them, first thing I'm doing is give them a hug.
Right.
That's the first thing I'm going to there, because there's a transfer of energy.
Mm.
But it was, I went to the Outer Banks of North Carolina a few months after the accident, really in a dark place, really struggling, and didn't let anybody in, right? The need for support. And I'm convinced that it was the stillness of Kill Devil Hills down in the Outer Banks in October. It was all shut up beach town. 1992, the kids are back at school. The rentals are down. It's just locals. And, I putzed around for a few days and got more drunk than I probably should have, because that's how I dealt with it. And I know that it was that stillness that I experienced that allowed me to kind of hear something, and not with your ears, right? But a deeper. And that's why I got in my Jeep and drove home. There's no question.
Wow.
I wasn't cured automatically.
Right.
That's a step, though. That's a step, when you sit with yourself. Yeah, the answers are in there.
So I've got a question for you. You've got a big family, and I know how much your mother means to you.
Mm-hmm.
When they read the book, were they surprised? I'm sure they were touched in a million different ways. What was the reaction from Mom and your brothers?
Yeah. They all liked it. I think the main thing was they didn't realize how much I was hurt.
Mm.
I was on the doorstep of taking my own life. And, if anybody out there is in that place, don't just stop, make the call, call a suicide hotline or call somebody that really loves you, because that's not the answer. It seems like it is sometimes, and it's not. So the main thing was they didn't know how much I was struggling. And then the other thing is, the book, as you know, is fictionalized a bit, because I had a hard time writing the book based on an event where I lost my friend.
Yes.
I just had a lot of blocks there. And then somebody said to me, a writing coach that somebody put me in touch with, they said, why don't you just make up a story and get your message across that way? And you can say, yeah, this part's true, this part's not, if anybody asks you. And you remember the phone booth when Jake goes into the phone booth. I mean, that's kind of the in the movie, I guess that event that takes place, where things can't go back to the same way. And, I called my mom, and I was half drunk, and I said, when are you coming home? And she said, we can't wait to see you. And I hung up the phone and walked out, and I said, I wonder what it's going to be like when I get better. Right. So that was that notion of vision. But my mom, when she read it, she said, Daniel, did we really have that phone call? I don't remember. And I said, yeah, Ma, it's just about saving my life.
Wow.
And she laughed about it. But I had some great support there. I really did. And I still do. Both my parents are still alive, 92 and 84.
Fantastic.
And they're wonderful.
Did you ever think you would be an author, best-selling author, and a speaker in your younger years?
No, not really. Not really. It was interesting. You and I talked. I used to live in Aspen before the accident. And about 5 minutes before the accident, I had kind of made up my mind I was going to go back there and get my real estate license and just live there, because I had gone out for winters and all. And then the accident happens, and, your world is turned upside down, so to speak. No, I never, I always thought about being a teacher. I was always attracted to psychology and philosophy and life and supporting people as best I can. So I think this, maybe where I am is a pretty good fit. I remember one guy said to me, how do you get to be a motivational speaker? Do you major in college in that? And I'm like, no, he was kind of, I could tell, one of those guys. And he said, well, you're usually like a Navy SEAL, a quarterback, an entrepreneur who sold their company for $1 billion. And he said, you don't look like any of them. And I just said, he kind of smiled victoriously as he said this. And I said, no, I'm not any of them. I said, however, I've been dead once and I came back to life. And he's like, oh.
Right.
And then afterwards he came up and we had a good conversation. So, I mean, people call me whatever they want to call me. I'm just here to slow people down and see if I can offer any support.
I love that. Okay. So your latest book, I see over your shoulder.
Yes. Taking the shit out of the show. 7 short stories to navigate life's challenges.
Tell us a little bit about that book. Can you share a little bit?
Yes. That'd be great. Thanks, Heather. A lot of, it was weird. I had an idea for a 4th book, and, I for some reason, I just heard people using the term shit show a lot.
Oh yeah.
We have 3 kids, Luke, Joey, and Lizzie, and 25, 27, and a junior in college. And then some other people, and I'm like, man, what is this thing shit show? But everybody knows what that means, right? It's just a time of struggle and chaos. And sometimes it can be a wedding and it's not, somebody's too drunk or whatever, and it's a shit show, but it's not life threatening. Yes. And then we have the ones that are more severe, those times of uncertainty and chaos and fear and anger and all those things. So I thought, what if I, just wrote 7 chapters, and each chapter is a different person experiencing one of life's challenges or the so-called shit show. And then just try to give my idea of, my idea through another character. How do we take this shit out of the show? And it's not the elimination. A lot of people mistake. It's not the elimination of the brutal facts of the struggle. That's not taking the shit out of the show. Taking the shit out of the show is, how am I dealing with them? Right? How am I dealing with them? And how am I seeing myself on the other side of this struggle? So there's a character in the first book, Sammy. You met Sammy in the first book.
Yes.
And Sammy shows up in the 7th book, and she drops into these people's lives each time. So Sammy's kind of the coach there. Yeah. Okay. You and I talk. We have a screenplay for the first book. We're still shopping, but that's not the easiest of something to mark off your to-do list, right? Getting a book made into a movie.
No, it is not. But you know what? The persistent prevail. So
right on.
Keep going.
Well said.
Yes. I like that. I love that. Okay. Well, I can't wait I'm going to read all of your books, but I think I'm going to take in the shit out of the show. So I'm going to go read that one because I've been in the middle of those. I was in the middle of, I've got a book that I'm working on right now. And the first 3 pages is a shit show on the side of a mountain. And I'm like, when is this going to stop? So yes, absolutely.
I'll look forward to reading them. Send them over if you want. And then I'll destroy the file after I read them.
No worries. No worries.
No, that's cool. I'm sure you'll write some really cool books.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But I love this. So where can people find you, Danny? You're the host of a wonderful podcast as well. Tell our listeners where they can find you to find out more. Obviously, if you're looking for a great motivational speaker that has an unusual, unique, and powerful story, I highly suggest that you take a listen to Danny Bader and hire him for your event. So where can people find you, Danny?
Thank you, Heather, for that. Thanks. The best place is the website, and it's DannyBader.com. And from there, all the social connections are there. So you could go out to Facebook or YouTube or any of those places, LinkedIn. But, if somebody's interested, and actually in May right now, I've got an online course called Back to Life, and it's 29 videos where I tell my story and I walk people through those 5 principles and give them exercises and science and all that. Nice. And for May, I just put up complimentary offer. So if anybody's interested and says, I could use a little online course where I can jump into whatever part I need to, they could go out to the website and enroll in that and just use the code is GROW 2022, but they'd see it out there.
Terrific. Yeah. Well, I highly encourage anybody tune into his podcast, follow Danny, read all of his books. He's got a great wit and he's got a fantastic message that you're not going to find on every street corner. So Danny, it's been a pleasure just chatting with you for a while. And I can't wait to tune in with you maybe next year and find out what you're doing and where we can watch your movie.
Yeah, that sounds good, Heather. Thanks so much. I'm glad that our paths have crossed, and I look forward to them staying crossed.
Wonderful.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Mentors and Moguls podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, rate and review this interview and share it with a friend who could benefit from today's guest. You can find bonus video episodes at mentorsandmogulspodcast.com or check out our events page and our blog at heatherrstone.com. Until next time, make it a great day.